So in this video, I'll be going over The Ethics of Belief, a paper and theory developed by W.K. Clifford there on the right, not by the big red dog on the left. So this bridges epistemology and ethics. So epistemology is the study of knowledge, how we come to know things, and whether knowing certain things and the way we know them is justified is correct. And then ethics, of course, is about what's right, what's wrong. And typically, what one should believe is typically like a matter of epistemology. So this is like, are you justified in believing that? Is that a correct belief to hold? It's more descriptive, with some normativity in there. Clifford argues it is also a moral matter. So if you believe something incorrectly or irresponsibly, it is not simply just like a bad belief. It is a bad thing to do. It is morally wrong. He also, of course, holds that we must believe on the basis of sufficient evidence. Because, and this is the last bullet point, Clifford's consequentialism, if we don't believe on the basis of sufficient evidence, then there will be bad consequences because belief causes action. So if we believe things irresponsibly, knowingly on the basis of bad evidence, then there will be bad consequences because belief causes action. And this will be overall a bad thing that happens, not just an incorrect belief or an unjustified belief in the kind of descriptive way of epistemology. It is a bad thing to do morally. So, some irresponsible beliefs aren't just bad epistemically, they're morally wrong, because there are negative consequences of irresponsible belief. Take a ship owner who is kind of aware that his ship hasn't been, patched up or worked on in a while, but he still sends his people out there on a voyage, even though, he kind of knows a bit that this ship isn't in the best shape, but he just kind of irresponsibly believes it'll be okay. It won't sink. And of course it does sink. People die, and he has to pay an exorbitant amount to get it fixed up. Secondly, the religious agitators. Maybe there's people who have prejudiced beliefs against people they've never met because of their religion. And then they go about and they hurt these people. They're believing this irresponsibly, and this irresponsible belief causes them to do bad action. So, more specifically, some negative consequences of irresponsible belief. There are primary harms. These are direct negative consequences. This is, you believe something irresponsibly without evidence, and then you go and you commit a bad action. You do something harmful to someone from it. So this would be the ship owner and the religious agitator. So the ship owner, his ship goes down, people get hurt. The religious agitators, they go onto the place where the people they're prejudiced are against, and they do bad things to them. Maybe they attack them, or maybe they just exclude them, segregate against them. They do bad things to them. Then there's also secondary harms. So, a big objection to Clifford would be, hey, what if I just believe something on the basis of not having enough belief? I believe it irresponsibly, but nothing directly bad comes from it. I don't go hurt anyone. And he would say, no, that's still a bad thing to do because it weakens your epistemic faculties. So you are becoming more prone, and you're practicing believing on the basis of bad evidence. So you consistently do this more. And then that is a harm because you cannot seek truth as well. Now, there's still some bigger objections to this theory outside of that one. Firstly, is doxastic voluntarism true? So this is basically, do we have the ability to choose what we believe? Many people would say we don't really in a lot of cases. What we believe isn't really a matter of choice. And so if it isn't a matter of choice, then this seems to kind of spit in the face of what Clifford's saying here, because he's really like, you are choosing what you believe, and you need to choose correctly. And then this would be, well, we're not choosing what we believe. Secondly, what's the standard of evidence? So what is sufficient evidence? Typically the reply to this is evidence that, if believed, would raise the probability of the target proposition to a place of that's something you should believe. But still, many people would say, is this too taxing on people? And this bleeds perfectly into the third point. Is there a standard for acquiring evidence? So there's many cases wherein someone does not have sufficient evidence to believe something, or maybe they have sufficient evidence to believe something that isn't true, but all they had to do was just try and do more research and acquire more evidence. And is there a standard for this? I mean, this seems to easily spiral to where people have to consistently look for more and more evidence on pretty much every proposition, because if they don't do so, they're running the risk of believing irresponsibly or believing without sufficient evidence, which could lead to one of those two primary harms. This bleeds into the fourth point of pragmatic concerns, which is that's William James over there on the left. He's a big proponent of this. There seems to be many instances where we do not have sufficient evidence for our beliefs, but we still must believe something. And then you must have a faith-based belief. So, say you think that believing in God would completely ground your life and give you moral direction, and it would just completely make your life much better. It's going to help you flourish. Now, say the question is underdetermined as to whether God actually does or actually doesn't exist. I mean, there isn't evidence for or against. Some arguments for are good, some arguments for or against are good. You don't really have enough evidence to believe one way or the other. Some would say you should just have that faith-based belief because the pragmatic concerns, the things you will get out of that belief, will completely make it okay to believe in that thing, even if you don't have enough evidence. And as long as you're not believing in something that is clearly false and is going to hurt someone, then you seem to be doing just fine. Fifth, is this messing up epistemology? Many epistemologists would say, hey, no, get out of my discipline. Get away. I just want to investigate whether someone is justified in believing something and whether that is knowledge when they believe it. I don't care if it makes them a good or bad person. Get away. I think that the pragmatic concerns is probably the best objection because there seem to be just so many beliefs that we have that aren't really on the basis of sufficient evidence. I mean, just countless beliefs, even to God or even to basic things like is the sky blue. Like, you could really say that if you think about it for long enough, we just don't have sufficient evidence to believe these things. I think most of our beliefs do come down to some element of faith. And so a complete ethics of belief where you need to just have like so much evidence, and this might not be what Clifford is claiming, but you just need to have like a good amount of evidence for everything. You're an evidentialist. I think that is a hard position to hold in our daily lives. I do think you need some element of faith in your belief. That's just my opinion, and that is the ethics of belief.